Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Innovation Fund Bidders Conference and Application Training. It is 1 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This Bidders Conference and Application Training is being recorded and will be available on our website and in the Trust Central soon after today, so that you can have it for reference as well. We are going to discuss throughout the training the ways in which you can ask questions. So please just hold off on that. I saw one hand raised, and we have a Q&A function, which is what we'll use for question and answer throughout the session. Okay. So as we get started, and I do want to just make sure to emphasize that this is a reopening. Some of you may know that we opened the Innovation Fund back in February and had to suspend it as our community was grappling with the coronavirus disease, and we really wanted to focus our attention on supporting our community during that time. We are still experiencing many of those challenges, and we'll talk a little bit about how we're incorporating that into this new release or reopening of the solicitation. With you today from the Children's Trust is, I'm Vivian Borges, the Chief Operations Officer at the Trust, and I have two of my colleagues today that will be helping to share this information and answering some questions. So Rachel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Spector, and I'm one of the Assistant Director of Programs at the Children's Trust.
And Darren.
Hi, everyone. I'm Darren Buffkin. I'm the Research Analyst for the Innovation Fund.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So basically, at the end of the day, this Innovation Fund ties very well with our mission, which is to partner with our community to plan, advocate for, and fund strategic investments that improve lives of children and families in Miami-Dade County. The Innovation Fund allows us to do this in a very different way, in a unique way, that's quite different than many of our other initiatives, and that's what we want to talk through during the Bidders Conference today. So the first section of our time together will be what we call Bidders Conference, where we share with potential applicants what this solicitation is about, what are we looking for. And then the second half will be the application training. So if you listen to the Bidders Conference and you think that this applies to you, this is something that you are interested in pursuing, then you can stay on the call for the application training. So first, let's talk a little bit about why the Children's Trust has an innovation solicitation to begin with. Most of the initiatives, most of the grants that the Children's Trust puts out are very specific. You know, it could be for youth after-school programming and summer programming, youth enrichment, parenting, early childhood. So we have many different initiatives where we specifically state this is what we're looking for. You know, these are the evidence-based practices we want to implement. This is the type of program we want. And then we ask providers to tell us how they would do that. So that's how most of our grants are. Innovation is very, very different. We're not saying that these are the different things that we want to fund. That's what we want to hear from you. This time we do have some special interest areas, but for the most part, it's an open space for us to be able to test new ideas. So it's kind of like an open slate as long as it's new to our community, and it allows us to test new ways, new approaches of doing things. Secondly, it allows us to invest in different stages of a project. You can apply for a planning grant to see, you know, there's an idea or something that you've been wanting to implement and you don't have like the resources or the time to plan it out. This is a great opportunity. Or it could be a pilot. Maybe you have been able to think through, you've been able to plan something out and you're ready to pilot it in a small scale. Or it could be full implementation. So there are different phases of a project, and this and the Innovation Fund allows us to invest at those different stages or a combination of those as well. And then lastly, it's a way to build on existing community assets. So no matter what avenue we're taking, what idea we have, there are certain things that are happening in our community that are assets, and we need to learn what those are and build on those in innovative ways to help to address existing challenges. Okay, so that's why we invest in innovation, is a way for us to learn and for the provider to learn new ways and new approaches, new strategies on solving some of our most pressing issues. So what is innovation and what is innovative? We can look at many different definitions. We're going to talk a little bit about how we define it at the trust and what it means for this grant opportunity. So innovation can be divided into two broad categories. We have innovative ideas and approaches that are revolutionary. It is like nothing that has been done before. Or we have ideas that are evolutionary, which means that there have been incremental advances that are fairly different and open up brand new opportunities of doing things. So really innovation could fall within any of those. It could be something brand new that has, just never been tried before. It's revolutionary, and we'll get some examples of that. And then or it could be evolutionary, meaning that there's something that's already in place, but it is evolving in a way that is innovative and new. So with that said, when we think about this fund, what we're looking for are novel strategies that have been envisioned but not yet tried in our community. So this could be something that has been implemented elsewhere outside of Miami-Dade County and has shown promise or has shown success, and somebody wants to bring it here to address a specific issue that we're facing here that would qualify, or something brand new that hasn't been tried anywhere and we're trying it here for the first time. It has to be focused on improving the lives of children and families. At the trust, all of our initiatives, all of our funding goes to children and families. We are able to learn from both successes and failures. We've had many examples. We're in, I think, the 5th round of putting out innovation grants, and we have examples of programs or ideas that have succeeded, and we've learned a lot from that, and the provider has learned a lot from that. And we've had examples that didn't succeed. They didn't go out as planned, and we have also learned from those examples. And that's really what innovation, and it's almost like a lab, right? We're trying different things. We're seeing what works and what doesn't, and then what works, how can we elevate that further? And then we also are able, so to those that work, we're able to promote the sustainability of those successful strategies, whether it's in our own funding initiatives or with other funders that we can make connections with. And we'll share some examples of that as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when we suspended the initial release that was released in February because our community and our country, our world was responding to the coronavirus disease. And we really wanted to focus on helping our community during that time grapple with what was going on. And obviously we're still focused on that, and that is still a huge priority for us. And we thought that the releasing innovation at this time could help garner and gather ideas that would help us address the effects of this moving forward. Our community is also grappling with the long history of racial inequities and social injustices across this country. And we felt that this was an opportunity through the Innovation Fund to have two very special focus areas. So in addition to accepting proposals that are innovative on any topic, there is a special focus area on innovative approaches or strategies that address racial inequity and social injustice across our community and how they affect children and families, as well as the effects of COVID-19 on children and families and the long-lasting effects that's going to have. So we want to make sure that we point out that those are two special focus areas that we are encouraging applicants to look into. But again, you can apply for any topic that fits within the innovation criteria. So we wanted to spend some time sharing with you some ideas that have been successful in the past. So that's what we're gonna do next. So some past successful applicants, and then Rachel and I are going to give a little bit of a summary of these, and we have one that has a video. So this first one that we want to point out is the children's savings accounts. In, I think, the second round of innovation, Catalyst Miami requested funding to do a feasibility study to determine if children's savings accounts, universal children's savings accounts program would be feasible in Miami. So what they did is they put together a group of private and public stakeholders to think about what this would look like, how this could work, what would entry level be. So basically a child at some entry point would automatically have a savings account open for them for college. And there's tons of research behind just having anywhere from $0 to $50 in an account for college at a young age increases your chances of not just attending college, but completing college drastically. And it had been taking place in other parts of the country. And so Catalyst and the stakeholders explored all the different ways in which this was happening, thought about what this could look like in Miami, and completed a feasibility saying, yes, this is definitely viable here. There is the need, there is the desire, there's the community support. And the city of Miami did the very first investment to launch it in the city of Miami schools. So every kindergartner, starting last year, the program launched last fall, every kindergartner in the city of Miami public school, as they enter kindergarten, they have the opportunity to open a savings account for, parents have an opportunity to open a savings account for their child. So this program has deemed extremely successful. It is on a path to grow to every Miami-Dade County public school, elementary school or school that serves kindergarten across the county over the next 5 years. And we have continued to support it through our funder collaboration, where we brought in other funders to the table to make sure that the program, it moves forward, has launched, and continues to grow over these next 5 years. So that's an example of a program that did not exist here. It was tried out, it was a planning grant basically, and it's deemed to be successful and is continuing and growing. And Rachel, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. So another example of a successful applicant was Homestead Christian Academy, which is located in the Deep South in Florida City, and is a childcare program, was experiencing, they serve a high population of children in foster care, and they were experiencing many children that were, removed from their homes, and the DCF workers were sort of, maybe camped out in their driveway, or spending a lot of time with children in their cars or in a restaurant or in not such a safe location while they were locating sometimes difficult to find placements for children that were being removed from their home. And of course, it goes without saying that this is a very traumatic experience for a child. And so their idea was to create a safe space, a safe haven for children to come while they're in transitioning from their home into a foster care placement, and to have a space, a private space for the DCF worker to be able to spend time to find not just any placement in a rush, but the most appropriate placement for a child to go. And so we funded we funded actually all 3 phases, not expecting it to really make it to implementation during the year. This was also when there was a transition of the lead foster care agency in our community. So they faced a lot of challenges, but in the end, it most definitely was a need in our community, and they were able to partner with Citrus Health and DCF, and we were so happy to participate in the grand opening, where they have developed and they do have dedicated 2 spaces, 2 different rooms, one for younger children, one for older children, as well as an office for the DCF worker. Additionally, this program spreads, so they're located in the South, which is where people, any children that live sort of like central county down. And then Citrus was able to also partner with Lotus Village to open sort of the same sort of program in Lotus Village for families in the north. So this is an example of a very successful innovation. The next one is Lotus House. So Lotus House, this was their second successful innovation application, and they were sort of experiencing difficulties in sustaining and affording very healthy food. They have a 90% plant-based diet in Lotus House for their guests. And so their proposal was to purchase a shipping container and convert it into a fully functioning hydroponic farm, which you can see some photos of inside the container. It produces, well, I don't know the stats, but every day it produces tons of vegetables, fresh vegetables, lettuce, radishes, carrots. And in addition to being a consistent food source, they also developed an innovative curriculum for both the children, guests, and their parents as well. And so on the day that I visited the farm, a lovely fourth grader gave us a tour and sort of shared everything that I had no idea how to grow. And they grow things from the seed until they consume the product. So this was also an example of a successful project from that was fully implemented. And the next one, I think, the next one is also an example of sort of a technology project, excuse me. Code Explorers really wanted to focus on teaching empathy to children. I guess you can see through ages, young children, elementary and middle school, using technology and a sort of a 3D virtual experience. This project has received a lot of attention. In fact, they were invited to present at the United Nations Technology Fair. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they weren't able to attend, but they did have the opportunity to present in the United Nations in New York. And so this was also an example of sort of taking an idea we really invested in the development phase for this project, although toward the end, they also were able to implement. And I think for this one, we are gonna play a video to talk about the Queen Bee project.
Every Tuesday on CBS 4 News, we share stories about why mentoring matters. A unique environmental student leadership program is connecting kids with nature, giving them real responsibility. Well, these lessons in gardening and farming are creating quite the buzz. CBS anchor Carly Barnett explains. Asia Dawson is a certified beekeeper. This 14-year-old from Miami Gardens is working to breed queen bees to increase the bee population at a patch of Heaven's Sanctuary in the Redland. It's got its challenges.
Ooh, when I got stung in my face, it was very memorable.
Linda Freeman is Asia's mentor. She heads Generation 2050, a student leadership program at Trinity Church. Partnered with FIU College of Medicine and the Children's Trust, this is truly innovative curriculum.
We're focusing on pollinators, bats, bees, and butterflies. All three of those are very important to the South Florida ecosystem.
The youth development program for students 6th through 12th grade, Gen 2050, has a classroom like no other with lessons in leadership, life skills, and environmental stewardship.
One thing I can say about bees is they're very important to this world. There's a study that says without bees, 4 years from now, this world will be literally done without bees. We will not have no food, no plants, no fruits, no vegetables, none of that.
Working up close with the bees requires caution and patience.
Bees act based on your behavior. So if you're calm and you're relaxed, they're relaxed.
Linda teaches the students to practice mindfulness to avoid getting stung and for daily challenges.
To use mindfulness when we're very anxious, like if I'm taking a test, I can just sit there, calm down, and then focus on the test. I never knew that I would be able to do this type of things. Pastor Linda is just, she's like the queen of this whole thing. She's literally like the queen bee.
The program will soon expand to documenting bats and butterflies. Meanwhile, they get to explore this tropical paradise together.
Now, this is the single largest bat house in the state of Florida.
This is like my favorite part.
Connecting the teens on this level with nature, the reward is both instant and forward-thinking.
Seeing them grow and develop and begin to understand that they are capable of doing much more than they think they can.
I doubt myself with certain things that I know I can do. But like I said, I like to keep myself on my feet. Like I like to be surprised, learn new things. I'm very willing to learn new things.
The kids that I know in the year 2050, they will be us. They will be the adults. And what would they need to know to lead the world?
But it's not all work and no play. Turns out beekeeping has a softer side too.
Cardi B, Beyonce, Chloe,
We have Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
We have Arwen and Eowyn. They're from Lord of the Rings. We name all the boxes after very strong women in history, culture, or literature.
We were gonna make a song, Honey. Yep. Yeah, we're gonna work on that one.
Carly Barnett, CBS 4 News.
Honey, honey.
Well, if you would like to.
So this was a great example as well. I just want to point out that we do fund the 2050 Gen, the program, through our youth enrichment portfolio, our youth development portfolio, excuse me. So the innovation was really around the beekeeping, bringing the beekeeping to South Florida and teaching the skills around beekeeping and the integration of that into an already existing program. So this example was also came out of the Florida City Homestead area. And the group that submitted this application was, seeing a big issue in the South, especially around sexual assault, and especially with younger adults and older youth. And they really wanted to sort of try to address this issue as a community through the perspective of the bystander. And we funded this project. Actually, they received an extension, and I'm proud to say that they just mailed us the board game, the actual board game that has been fully developed into a full game. But we really funded sort of the planning and development of this project. They held a lot of, you can sort of see in the photos, a lot of focus groups within their community, involving adults, involving youth, involving community-based organizations. And they developed the game that youth and folks can engage in to sort of understand sexual assault and understand how to react and how to support people from the bystander perspective should you know of somebody that is a victim or involved in sexual assault. So we're really proud of that game. And the final one, I think this is the final one, was actually from our very, very first round of innovation. This was Conecta Familias in partnership with MCI. And they really wanted to, in that innovation opportunity, we had sort of a special call out as well, similar to this one, around open spaces and sort of, they really wanted to think about how to use open spaces for their community. And so what we really funded was also planning and the development. And they did host some successful events, but what also they developed is this guide. And the guide offers our community a very detailed step-by-step manual, if you will, about how you can create play streets in urban areas. And so it's very thoroughly completed and very thoughtful and intentional. And the idea was that other community-based organizations or other, you know, neighborhood block groups or anyone could really take this guide and sort of convert part of their neighborhood or some streets into a safe and play zone, and learning. Post-COVID, we'll be able to engage in that again. And oh, one more. So the wallet card project was actually one of our first projects as well. This is funded and was funded to the Disability Independence Group, and they work with a lot of different people with disabilities, and they really found a need to sort of educate the young people that they work with, as well as the police around how to approach individuals how should the police approach individuals should they need to, not understanding if a person has a disability or not, and how should the person with the disability sort of react, and how can they interact most appropriately with the police. And so they developed this card that the person with the disability has, and then the idea is that the person, if they're stopped or they need to interact with the police or anyone else, that they could take out the card, which will alert the other individual that they do have a disability. And it has the little black square, sort of like, almost like a mood meter, I think, that sort of will alert them to how they're feeling. And then they took it a step further, was that they did training with not only the people that are gonna have the cards, a group of police. They started with this small group of police, and they've expanded it. And then they brought all the groups together, and they did training and really like live simulation between the people that are using the cards, as well as the police officers. And they're working on getting all the police in our community trained as well.
Thank you, Rachel. So we wanted to provide a few examples of projects that had been successful in the past. And in those examples, you saw examples of revolutionary ideas, you saw examples of evolutionary ideas, you saw different phases from planning to pilot to implementation, just so that you can see all of what's possible. So we wanted to just kind of circle back on the project requirements, like what qualifies a project to fit within the Innovation Fund. And again, it's something that should be innovative and novel. It has not been tried before here in Miami-Dade County. It's a unique way of addressing existing community needs or challenges. Secondly, it has to be focused on improving the lives of children and families in Miami-Dade County. It's new to our community, it's new to Miami-Dade County. And importantly, and I think this is where we oftentimes have the kind of most challenge with, is that it shouldn't fit within our currently funded portfolio. So in other words, if the idea is an after-school program, we already have a portfolio where we fund after-school programs. Now, if there is an innovation within something that can happen in an after-school program, a brand new way of doing, I don't know, social emotional learning, whatever it may be, that can take place in an after-school program that hasn't been done before, then that's something that can be considered, right? So the best way to know, we're going to talk about the process in a minute, but the best way to know is to submit the idea through the pre-application, and then we can gauge. You may also, want to look at our existing initiatives. You can go on our website and see the different initiatives that we already fund. We've talked a lot about youth development because I think that's where we see the most, alignment, where we receive ideas that fit within our youth development portfolio. We also have parenting, we have early childhood initiatives. But again, it doesn't mean that the idea can't serve parents or serve children. It's just how it's done can't fit within the existing portfolio because somebody's already doing it in some way. So it should be a novel idea, a new way of doing things, an innovative approach to solving our existing needs It must take place here in Miami-Dade County, must be new to our county. So those are the requirements as far as the project is concerned. And then related to eligibility, I know in the beginning of, during the registration, some people submitted questions and some of it was around eligibility. So you can go on our website to learn more around all the eligibility criteria, but these are, this is the bulk of it. So you can be a government entity, you can be a for-profit, not-for-profit, or faith-based organization. You must be registered to do business in the state of Florida. So we cross-check, our system will cross-check your organization against SunBiz. So you must exist within SunBiz. You cannot be a Miami-Dade County public school or charter school. By statute, we're unable to fund the school district or charter schools. And you must have a recent IRS Form 990. If you're a new organization, meaning you're not currently funded by the Children's Trust for another initiative, you must submit an IRS Form 990 with the pre-application in order to qualify.
I just want to clarify, because last time we got a lot of questions about this. I believe the 990 is for nonprofit. So if you are a for-profit or a faith-based organization, you can submit whatever tax documents that you have, that you file with the IRS.
Thank you. And then some important dates to think about. So we have a total of $1 million for this initiative, total, right? That's how much we can award as a whole. No award can be over $100,000. So we have $100,000 max for each award. So each proposal cannot exceed $100,000. It's a one-year initiative, right? So you have 12 months to complete whatever it is that you apply for, whether it's the planning, pilot, implementation, or combination of those things. It's a one-time only contract, and the contracts would begin January 1st. And here is a full timeline. So we have the grant was released or reopened on Monday on July 13th. Pre-applications, and we're going to go over the process for that, are due August 6th. Once you submit a pre-application, we review those pre-applications and invite you to apply if it meets the eligibility and the requirements of the Innovation Fund. Then we invite you to apply. If you receive an invitation to apply, you have until August 28th to submit a full application, okay? Then from the time that the grant was released or reopened on July 13th, and actually we've been on the cone of silence since the beginning, we're under the cone of silence until awards are the recommendations go out and the award notifications go out, which is on October 1st. So from that time, we're under the cone of silence. I know that there's some questions in the Q&A here in the feature, which we're going to discuss in a minute. We're also going to talk about how you can ask questions now that we're under the cone of silence. With the cone of silence, we are not able to communicate with anyone, not our board members, not fellow staff, not members of the public related to the Innovation Fund, but there are avenues in which we could do that in a public format, which we'll talk about in a minute. So award recommendations will go out October 1st. The board will approve or will consider those recommendations on the board meeting on November 16th, and then contracts will begin January 1st. Yes, and in between August 28th and October 1st, we will be reviewing the applications. Okay. So how do you even access this information, right? So we're just going to share a little bit about how this works within our system. So if you go to our website, thechildrenstrust.org, there you'll see a grants option right there that's circled. When you click on that, you will see a screen that looks like this. Once you click on grants, you will see a pop-up will come up with a process for applying for grants. So if you have not applied for a grant at the Children's Trust before, we highly recommend that you watch the video, which takes you through kind of like the full spectrum. And then if you click view current grant opportunities, it'll take you to the Innovation Fund, right? You'll get to a screen that looks like this. You're gonna click the arrow for Innovation Fund. This is what will open. The dates have been updated. These are just like the old dates, but if you click on it now, you'll have the new dates. It gives a brief description of the fund itself. This video will be posted on there in the future, and then you'll click apply online to access the application. Okay. Once you click there, it's going to take you to Trust Central, which is our system for grants. And in here, you can start an application. You can ask a question. You can download a PDF of the invitation to negotiate of the grant. That's what I would recommend to be the very first step. If you haven't done that already, download the PDF, read through it very carefully, have a good understanding of what we're talking about, how we're defining innovation. It'll just reiterate a lot of the things that we said here, provide more context, more information. You can look at the questions that are being asked, and then you can make decisions accordingly. Once you start an application, you'll see your applications in a pod there. You will also see the timeline that we just went over. All of those dates will show up on this screen as well. And any resources linked to this ITN will be listed here as well. Okay. So how to ask a question. We're going to answer, right after this, we're going to answer some clarifying questions now. That means that we have covered that content during the bidders conference and we can answer them. Many of the questions, and we're going to answer them live, many of the questions though that are specific to your idea or are content specific, you must submit them through the system. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. Just previously, I showed you once you get on that screen, you can you can click on ask a question. When you do that, you click on ask a question, and when you do that, you're going to receive a pop-up that looks like this. If your question is fiscal, so it's about the budget or the Form 990 that we talked about, or what IRS document do you need to complete, you click fiscal. If it's general in nature, you click general, and if it's programmatic, something specific to the services section, then you'll click that. So you'll identify what category, and that helps us make sure that the right person is answering your question. Then you ask your question, submit your question as clearly as possible, so that, again, everyone will see this question. This is public, so that everyone has access and can see all of the questions that are being asked and the responses, since we're under the cone of silence. So be as clear as possible to eliminate, the back and forth in this, public setting, and then submit your question. Now, if your question is technical, you get into Trust Central and you're having a technical issue, you're not able to log in, your application is no longer there, whatever it may be, it's a technical issue. Instead of submitting it to the system, we ask that you email the help desk helpdesk@thechildrenstrust.org, that you include in the subject line Innovation Fund, so that we can send it to the right person. And again, we ask for technical questions to be done through the help desk, because many times you will need to see maybe a screenshot of something, or we may need to contact you directly, and that's the best way for us to do that. Okay, so if your question is about your Innovation Fund idea, proposal, it's general in nature, or a general question about the ITN itself, or about your program in particular, or a fiscal question, you're going to submit it through the system, through Trust Central. And if it's technical, you're going to email the help desk. Okay, so if you already had an idea, and when the ITN was open back in February, you had submitted this idea already, we have it. Okay, we have it. We told you to pause. It's suspended for right now. We're going to reopen. Once we reopen, it'll be available for you. So if you had a pending pre-application, you had submitted a pre-application and you hadn't heard back if you were invited to apply or not. We are currently reviewing all of those pre-applications that have been submitted, and you will hear back from us within the next 48 hours around whether you are invited to apply or not. And again, if you're not invited to apply this time, you're welcome to submit a new idea. So that's why we try to get back to you as quickly as possible, so that you can submit other ideas if you'd like. If you were already invited to apply, you submitted a pre-application, it was approved, you've been invited to submit a full application, then please continue working on your application. And remember that it is due on August 28th by 5 p.m. Now, if you have a new idea you had not submitted before, or maybe you did, but now you're looking at this and you have another idea that you want to submit, you are welcome to do that. You please make sure that you review all components of the ITN. So where it said download the PDF, you read that carefully and fully. That you've created an account in our website. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you do that, because that way you'll have access to Trust Central. Participate in the application training, which is going to take place in a couple minutes. And then check our website and Trust Central regularly for any updates that may come up. Okay. So before we go into the next phase of it is the application training. Before we go into the application training, we're going to look into some of the questions that are here currently. And then we're going to stop looking at questions, and then we're going to explain what the process for questions in the next phase of this will be. Some of these we may not be able to answer. They may need to be submitted in the system like we just showed. And some we may be able to answer. We're not able, if you have a question, you need to submit it through the Q&A. We're not able, I see people that are raising their hands. We're not going to do live verbal questions at this time. We have a question of, can it be a 990 easy or POT card? Rachel, do you have a?
Yeah, no, well, it can be the easy form, not the postcard, because the postcard just basically confirms that you submitted. So what we need are the documents that show the actual numbers, right, that were submitted.
Okay, and then where can one find the list of past awardees and award amounts? We don't have an actual list of those right now on our website. We may have the current ones. I'm not sure, Rachel. Do we have the current awardees?
We don't, but.
We don't currently, but we did. That's why we sort of went over all of some of the examples that have been successful, so that you can get ideas of what those are. But we don't currently, and remember, the range of funding can be anywhere, can be up to $100,000. I would say the overall range is probably anywhere between 50, because that's another question that's on here, the range of funds provided. I would say for the most part, they fall between 50,000 and 90,000. I would say that is the overall range. I think I did that one. Due to COVID, many existing programs have to be implemented in a new format in order to be delivered. Would this qualify as innovative or evolving? That's a very content specific question. I think it really depends on the idea itself that is being proposed. So if you have a specific question about your specific idea, please submit it through Trust Central. But really the best thing you can do is submit a pre-application, read through the ITN, think about your idea. Does it fit within that? And if you feel that it does, submit a pre-application.
I think it's, can we propose a project that builds and expands significantly on an existing program that we have?
Again, I think that's similar to the last question. When you saw like the bee example, the beekeeping example is an example of that, of a program that evolved in an innovative way. And so the best way to know is to submit a pre-application and see whether it would qualify. Do members of YAC count for the code of silence? Everyone counts for the code of silence, everyone. No, staff members and board members are unable to speak to anyone that other than in a setting like this and through the Q&A related to the Innovation Fund. We're going to go over the pre-application in the application training, so you will see what questions are answered there, are asked. The question was, what information is required in the pre-application? We're going to go over that in a couple minutes. Can you submit more than one idea? Yes. Agencies may submit more than one pre-application if they have more than one idea. Similarly, if an idea is submitted through the pre-application and it's deemed, not innovative, the agency may submit another idea as long as it's within the timeline. And again, the sooner you submit a pre-application, the sooner we get back to you and are able to let you know if you qualify or not. If the company is incorporated, has a tax ID, but is at startup stage, but no income yet, can we apply?
I
Again,
think,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's a question that should be submitted for our finance team to respond specifically.
Yes. Can you type that in the answer, Rachel, to submit a question in Trust Central? Yeah. Do we get confirmation email? Yes, we're gonna go over the pre-application process. What you do get a confirmation email that it's been, that it has been received. And then we notify you through the system what the decision is. It does not show up on the dashboard. We already answered this one about more than one idea. If chosen, does the program cease to exist after the year period? No, many of the programs and examples that we shared have continue to exist and continue to be implemented. The trust is not going, the contract with the trust for this program will not be for more than 1 year through the Innovation Fund, but the program may continue. You'll see in the application training that one of the questions is, how will you sustain the program beyond 1 year? Is there a required match? No, there is no required match. Does the budget allow for indirect costs? We're going to go over the budget in the application training. If you're a nonprofit charitable organization and you fill out your accounting numbers with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumers, is that an acceptable place of a 990 form? Please submit. That's a very specific question to a specific applicant. You'll need to submit that in the system through Trust Central so that our finance department can answer. Does the program need to have a DCF license? No, not for this initiative. Not for this initiative in particular, no. Are there restrictions on nonprofits who are partnering with a public or charter school? For example, can program implementation take place during the school day? There are no restrictions to partners at all. The public school and a charter school cannot apply directly, but certainly we encourage partnerships throughout, and implementation can take, depending on the program, it can take place at any time of the day that makes sense. Just being cautious of supplanting. We're not able to supplant funding that is the responsibility of another entity. So just being cautious of that. We answered more than one project idea, yes. Can a for-profit company participate? Yes, for-profits and non-for-profits can participate. Is it a restriction on the development of the project? We've been working on a few years and make 5 million revenue last year. I'm not sure I understand that question. Please submit it in the system. Can a nonprofit organization develop and test an innovation in a public school? Yes, the program can be implemented in a public school. Will the decision-making process be inclusive and center racial justice organizations? And will there be a public criteria shared for that? We're going to go over the process for reviewing applications and decision-making in the application training. Will we be able to review ideas previously submitted by your organization? We went over some ideas here today. Those are the ideas that we have available. We have a description of the Innovation Fund and shared, like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 ideas during the bidders conference. What is the timeline for response once you submit a pre-application? We went over the timeline. When you submit a pre-application, we would typically respond within 48 hours. But you have to submit by August 6th, and by August 7th, we will have responded to all of the pre-applications. I think we are going to, I think it's best to move forward now, Rachel, to move forward with we're not going to be able to get to all of the questions if we don't get to your question. Like I said, we're going to stop at other times of the training to answer questions that are clarifying questions. There are a lot of questions on here that are very specific. You know, my organization does this. Those questions need to be submitted through Trust Central in the way that we described. We're going to go over what that process is again. This is more for clarifying questions about things that have been shared during the bidders conference and the application training. So in some cases, we're going to go in and say to submit the question during the through our system. We also recommend that you look at the questions that are already there. Many of these questions have already been asked from when we opened it before. So before you ask a question in the system, check and see what questions have already been asked and answered, because yours may already be there, and you'll get, you'll know the response quicker. So we're going to move forward with the presentation. We will come back to some of the questions that we're able to answer during those times of the presentation. Okay. So now we're going to get into the application training. So if during the bidders conference, you heard things that resonated with you, things, you have an idea that you're interested in exploring, then you could stay on for the application training to learn more about what that process is. Okay. So we're going to go over the innovation ITN and the review process. We're going to stop 2 times for clarifying questions. We're going to do a live demonstration of the application in between there. In some cases, we're going to answer a lot of the questions that are in the Q&A right now during the live demonstration and as we go over the review process. So again, reading over all of the questions, it takes up a lot of the time of the training itself. So we will stop for some clarifying questions, but we're not going to be able to get to all of them. So pay close attention to the next, hour or so that we have together, or what is it, 45 minutes that we have together, so that we can get to as many of the responses as possible. So we will answer clarifying questions. Content questions need to be submitted through the online Q&A. We're going to go over that process again. And then technical questions must be submitted through the help desk. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the sections in the ITN. So there's an initial pre-application, which Rachel is going to go over during the live demonstration, which is really the entry to apply. So once you submit the pre-application, we receive it, we review it, and we say, yes, this application is eligible to apply because it meets the criteria of innovation, or no, it is not. And then you are notified. If you are invited to apply, then these are the next sections that will be in the full application. You could see all of this when you download the ITN and see all of the different sections that are included. So there is a section on services. We want to understand what is it that you are proposing? What is this innovative idea? What are you hoping to address? What are you hoping to accomplish during this time? What are some barriers that you may come across? How are you going to sustain it beyond this time? So really, there's where you're sort of making your case ultimately that this is a bold and innovative idea that has not been tried before. If your idea focuses on one of our 2 focus areas around racial equity and social justice, or around responses to the effects of COVID on children and families, you really want to make that clear in that services section. Then it's the target population. Who are you serving? Who is going to benefit from this service that you're proposing, from this innovation? The next section is partners and service linkage. Who are you partnering with? We highly encourage collaboration always at the Children's Trust. And so who are your partners in this effort with you? What are the outcomes? What are you hoping to accomplish at the end of this project? Who is staffing? Who's going to do the work in order to get this done? What is your budget? What are the costs, full costs of implementing this program at any stage? And then what is your organization's capacity to take this on and do this work? Now, every application, every section of the application that we just went over is rated by reviewers on a 1 to 4 scale. 4 meaning that it is an excellent response. In the proposal itself, in the ITN, you'll see at the bottom a reviewer guidelines. That reviewer guideline tells reviewers, which you are able to see directly, tells reviewers what to look for in each section, and according to that, rate it from a 1 to a 4. So a 4 being it's an excellent response, there were no deficiencies, and it exceeds the requirements of that section. A good response meaning, it's solid. There are maybe a few questions that need clarification, but for the most part, it meets the requirements. A 2 is, the responses were weak or incomplete. there are some major deficiencies or information missing, and it does not provide sufficient evidence that it meets the requirements. And lastly, an unacceptable response is a 1. It's unresponsive or not relevant to that section, or maybe it's a counterproductive strategy to what we're trying to accomplish with this innovation fund. So each section receives a score within this range. And then also each section has different weights depending on what we are, what we're emphasizing. So in this ITN, you see here you have the weight. It weighs, and each section, for example, the services section has a weight of 4. The maximum points you can have in any section is a 4, because we are in a 1 to 4 range, for a maximum of 16 points. The target population has a weight of 2. And again, you don't need to do anything related to this. This is just so that you're aware what sections have way more than others. So in this case, the services section, which is where you're telling us what you're doing and why it's boldly innovative, has the most weight. The fiscal score, so if you're a new provider and you're submitting whatever fiscal document it is, whether it's a 990 or whatever it might be, this is the sort of way in which we provide a fiscal score. So we look at the current ratio, the net asset ratio, and the debt ratio, and according to that, a score is assigned to each of those. And again, that's only for new providers, meaning that you don't currently have a contract with us. If you already have a contract with us, you don't need to submit a 990 or an audit or any of those things, because we already have that. And we have a fiscal score for existing providers using our metric system. And so we look at your fiscal score through the process as opposed to a 990. Okay. Now for the pre-application, once you submit the pre-application, we review it. That's also where you submit your 990 or any applicable IRS form. If you're a new agency with the trust, we verify that you've submitted it. That helps us determine eligibility, and then using that, we send you a notification that yes, you're eligible to apply, and you're invited to submit a full application, or no, you're not eligible to apply because maybe the idea was not innovative, it's being done already, or maybe it fits within, we'll let you know the reason that it didn't meet the eligibility. At that point, if you're not eligible to apply, again, you're able to resubmit a pre-application as long as it's before August 6th. Okay. So that's the pre-application review process. Now the application review process, it is independently reviewed by a team of 3 reviewers. Once each person individually reviews the application, that group comes together, in this case, depending on where we are at that time, and maybe done virtually, comes together for a debriefing meeting where they discuss your application, your full application, section by section, share feedback, and at that point they can change, someone can change their score, one of the 3, any of the 3 could change their score if they're hearing something that maybe they didn't notice when they were reviewing it independently. You as an applicant are invited to attend that debriefing meeting. It's a very valuable experience because you're able to hear the dialogue about your application. You're not allowed to speak though. It's only, you're just listening to the dialogue. But it's also helpful as as a learning opportunity around writing the grant. Once the debriefing ends, you get a final application score, and then you also receive a fiscal score or rating based on the forms that you submitted, or your fiscal rating because you're an existing provider. Using that information, we identify a viable pool. So we'll say, okay, these are all of the application scores in order. These are the fiscal scores. So this is going to be the cutoff. We don't know what that number is because that varies based on the scores that we receive and the applications that we receive. So, but from there, we identify the viable pool based on the score. Once we have a viable pool, we interview all of the viable applicants and get to learn more about their innovative idea. And then we conduct an initiative review. So then we'll look at, now at this point, we'll have application scores, fiscal scores or ratings, and an interview rating based on the interviews. And from there, we make funding recommendations. Those funding recommendations go to our CEO first for review and approval. Once they're approved by the CEO, we post them on the website. We send out the notifications to all of the applicants, and then they go for recommendation to our board for final approval. Okay, so we are going to stop for a minute to answer some clarifying questions. In the meantime, I'm going to stop sharing as we do that, and Rachel is going to take over sharing so that she can prepare for the live demonstration.
Do you want me to continue, Vivian, or do you want to answer some questions?
I'm going to answer a few questions and then we can continue. Also, while you're going, I can respond to people, letting them know to answer them, to ask the questions that are applicable for Trust Central, to ask them through Trust Central. And then that way, when we come back together for questions, we're only answering the ones that are clarifying. So one question is, if located in Broward but serves students in Miami, is that acceptable? Yes, the services must be done in Miami-Dade County. Has a for-profit been awarded in the past? I'm pretty sure. I mean, a for-profit is eligible. I can't think now off of, you know, off of my head, but I believe I would assume so. Does the budget allow? We're going to go over the budget. I'm not going to answer that now. You explained that if a project is funded, it is funded for 1 year. After that 1 year, what happens? Again, I think I answered this question already. The project, we're committed. If it gets approved, we're committed to funding it for 1 year. Part of your application is answering how you're going to sustain that beyond 1 year. So that's more of an applicant's question to answer. How will the decision-making process be inclusive and center racial justice organizations? And will there be a public criteria shared for that? So we shared the process just now for reviewing applications. As I mentioned in the ITN itself, that process is outlined there. It's also on our website, and the reviewer guidelines are there. So as you are completing the application, you have the reviewer guidelines, which is what our reviewers are using to rate each of the sections, right? So it is there, it is publicly shared. Both the criteria, the guidelines, the rating scale are all available in the ITN itself. Can an organization submit to proposals? We've answered that multiple times. Yes, multiple ideas can be submitted from one organization. Can it be proposed by a new organization started in 2020? If so, what if the new group does not have financial or fiscal history? Again, that's a very specific question, so you need to submit that through the system. And I think we have several of those, that same question. How can we get a list of nonprofits who are looking to partner? We don't have a list of that. There are, in our website, you could see all of the organizations that we fund. It's not to say that they're looking to partner, but it's really, you know, if this had been in a live public setting, you'd be able to find partners just within the bidders conference itself. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where this is being done virtual. So it's, you know, it's really up to the applicant to find partners that, and it also depends on the idea itself. Can we partner with an existing nonprofit that is being funded by the trust? Absolutely. You can partner with whatever partner is relevant to your idea and your innovative strategy. If a different unit in our organization has received trust funding in the past, do we need to submit a fiscal form? Again, that's very difficult for me to tell based on who it is. You know, that's a very specific question. You need to submit that through the system. Rachel, why don't you go ahead and start, and I'm going to then, you know, clear some of these and let people know that need to submit it through the system while you do that.
Okay, perfect. So, so Vivian sort of walked us through where on the website you could find the grant opportunity. So this is what it looks like now. This is live. So in order to begin your pre-application, you're going to click where it says view details, and it's going to take you right here into Trust Central. Okay, so I just want to point out that right here we have the timeline again for your reference. Up here, Vivian showed you, here's where you would download the ITN. We recommend you doing that as a first step. Here's where you will ask a question, and then you can start a new application here and here. So I'm going to show you what the pre-application looks like. I also just want to point out here, we have we're going to post also here the video. We have some videos just teaching you also how to navigate the system for your information. Our budget guidelines are here as well, so that will help you when you're filling out your budget. And then here was the original PowerPoint, I believe, from the first application training and bidders conference. So you will click here to start a new application. This will take you to the pre-application. So here you're going to enter all of your information, and then you're going to either select your agency, if you've ever sort of been a part of the Children's Trust ecosystem as a funded provider, as a subcontractor, as a partner, you will find yourself here. And you can select the agency. If your agency is not found in the dropdown, you would go ahead and select agency not listed. And here's where you're going to need to enter your SunBiz FEIN number. And then this information will automatically populate based on the SunBiz number. So I would just say there has been like maybe one instance where potentially this, you entered the number and it didn't populate. If that happened, you can just reach out to us through the system. And then you're going to, so I'm going to select an agency so that we can move on. I don't know. Okay, there we go. So you see it populates the information, and then you can, create a title for your idea. And then here is important. So here you're going to need to add anybody who is going to be working on the application. So that includes yourself. And if I wanted to also, Vivian is also going to work on the application, then I'm going to add her as well. And I'm going to add her email. And then that means that both of us will have access to work on the application. You can add as many people as you want. Here, you're going to go and complete the questions. So, are the proposed services going to take place for children and families in Miami-Dade County? Are you a charter school? Do you have your documentation, your tax documentation? And it's also required at this stage that you upload your documentation. So you're going to be able to just choose a file, and then you can upload the documentation right there. And then here's very important. This is what the team at the Children's Trust is going to read to determine if your pre-application is being accepted and you're going to be invited to apply. So there is a word limit of 600 words. We know it's not a lot, and that's on purpose. We have a lot of pre-applications to review, and we would really want you to give a very brief and concise and clear description of what is your idea or what is your strategy, and how are you going to accomplish it briefly. Really, it's the main section right here is just about what are you proposing and why is it innovative? So we need to understand both of those things. So you're going to add your narrative here, and then we're going to ask you approximately how much money are you going to ask for? Okay, so you're not, you know, tied to this number. When you go ahead and fill your full application, you can change it, but we really ask you to be thinking what you really honestly will need for this idea. Okay, and then that's it for the pre-application. You can proceed, and then you will receive this message that says your application has been submitted, and it will be verified for eligibility. That's what you need to do for the pre-application at this phase, okay? So once your application has been submitted, when you log in again, you're going to see your applications right here, okay? So at this point, I don't want to start a new application. I've been accepted. My application, my pre-application has been deemed eligible to apply. So I'm going to log in to my application. Okay, there's a lot of different things you can do up here. Here's all the sections on the side that Vivian went over during the training. Here's where the list of authorized users is going to be. So I set this application up in advance, so Vivian's not showing, but if I forgot Vivian, I can go to the little pencil, and then you can go ahead and add additional people if you need to. And then in this section, you're able to upload any additional information or any files that you would like to share. This is important right here. This is showing you that your application is pending. So until this changes to green and it says submitted, your application is pending. Okay. This is where I was going to add Vivian. It took a minute. Let me just get back. We're reminding you at the top of the application, when the application is due. And in my time, sorry, I didn't think my internet is a little bit slow today, which is right here. This is telling you how much time is remaining. In my time at the Children's Trust over the years, I will advise you, do not wait until August 28th at 4:55 to submit your application. Many people do that, and the system can, you know, it could just get busy. So our suggestion is to submit earlier on time. So here is where you're going to modify your application, right? So here you're seeing section by section, and when you're getting ready to complete your application, you're gonna click on modify, and you are simply going to go through each of the sections. No, on my computer is like very slow. Okay, so in each section, the way that it's set up is it's going to give you information at the top, and then some questions and areas for you to respond at the bottom. In every section, most likely the narrative is not going to fit. So you are going to just need to expand it to be able to read. And you need to mark each section complete once you finish responding. So this one it already knows it's pre-populated because it knows that I'm not a currently funded agency. The system's telling. So I simply just need to mark this section complete and move on to the next section. So when I do that, you're gonna see on the right side where the sections are over here, when it comes back, that section will have a check mark. It will now be checked off that I'm done with that section. For me, I think it's helpful to mark the sections complete as you complete them. so that you know that you're done with that section. It doesn't mean that you can't go back. You can simply go back by clicking back on that section, and it will allow you to reopen the section if you feel like you need to edit it. So the second section is the services section. This is the part that Vivian sort of went over. This is the content. This is sort of telling you what we're looking for. And then we're asking you some very specific questions. In every section, you have the word limit here. You also have the word limit here, down here. So you know, this is sort of like you can, you know, use the tools here as if it were a Word document. And we are asking like specific questions right here. So in this section, you're going to be talking about, you know, what is your idea? What is the issue that you're trying to address, and how are you going to accomplish this, right? I think, you know, since you're going to have a team of people reviewing this, it's really important to be clear about, you know, why your program is innovative, why it's important for our community at this time. And then there were a bunch of questions about, you know, sustainability. So there is a question about how you will continue to fund this project after the one-time innovation funding period. So that's also important. So here you type your response. You can take up to 15 words. And when you're done, again, you can mark the section complete. You are able to go back. If you finish and then you're like, oh, I left this out of the services introduction, you can just go back and edit it. In this section, the target population, we're asking two questions. Basically, you know, what is the population and community you are going to serve? So it could be children birth to 3 in the South Miami area, or, you know, sort of like a brief description, or it could just be children and families countywide. Whatever the population is going to be impacted by your services, you can type your response here. And then we're also interested in, like, why did you choose that population? Why is this innovative strategy important for that population? How is your proposed innovation going to meet the needs of that population? And how are you going to engage the population, and how will you address any challenges you might encounter in engaging the population? So this is where you're going to really focus on the needs and challenges of the population that you're proposing to impact with your services. And the next section is going to be your partners and service linkages. So Vivian spoke a lot about, you know, who you're able to partner with, who you're not able to partner with. We highly value collaboration. This section is sort of a table. And so you're simply going to click on this blue button to add partners. Partners are also not required. So if you're an agency that is not proposing to partner with anyone, you just simply would go and mark the section complete and move on to the next. You don't necessarily need to enter any partners. If you are going to enter partners, then you're the same thing sort of as in the beginning of the agency. You're going to, the application, excuse me, you're going to sort of enter the partner, the name, and then you are going to enter like why, you know, why you are partnering with this agency, and what expertise do they bring to your idea and to your program. Here, if you have supporting documentation, you can upload maybe a letter of support. You can upload an MOU if you've already had it. And then here you are required to either choose, is this an in-kind partner or a subcontractor? The difference is very important, because in-kind means in-kind, the partner is maybe your idea is around like some type of innovation that will be embedded into an after school program. So if the partner is, I don't know, the YMCA, then that would be in kind, right? A subcontractor is a partner that you will be paying money to. If you are going to be paying money to them, then you need to include them as a subcontractor. The reason this distinction is very important is because there's a section over here, which is where you will enter the budget if you have a subcontractor. So if you don't and you put in kind, the agency will not show up over here. Okay, so I'm just gonna add them as a subcontractor because it's a transportation company, let's say. You can add as many partners as you'd like here, and you just keep entering the partners until you're done, and then you can mark it complete. The next section we're going to go to is the outcomes. And so if many of you are probably currently funded providers or you've read our other solicitations, so this section is a little bit different than our typical solicitations and services, because we are interested in learning from programs that are both successful and maybe didn't turn out as intended. So in this section, we are not defining the outcomes for you, but we are really asking you to tell us, how do you propose to measure the success of your project? How will you know if your project was successful or not? And what do you expect to learn? So here is just a narrative box of 600 words where you can explain that to us. What does success look like? And if you are perhaps you're using like some standardized tools, perhaps you're using a survey that you created yourself. If you have any documentation in this section, you're allowed to upload the files. I would just say that even though there's an area over here, all of your files, when you upload it, will end up down here for everyone to see. So another thing that I'm not sure if Vivian, you mentioned it or not, but when reviewers do review your application, they're only allowed to review what's in your application unless you provide a link. So if you say here, outcome section, you know, we are gonna use like the AAPI tool, let's say, to measure, you know, to measure our participants. If I don't know what the AAPI tool is, I, as a reviewer of your application, am not allowed to start Googling and figuring out what the AAPI tool is. So if you want me to understand what that tool is, then you should upload the copy of that tool here. Otherwise, we won't be able to know about it. The next section is the staffing table. So if you are proposing staff, so meaning you have an agency, an organization, and you have staff positions, here's where you would enter them. If you don't have any staff, maybe, you know, you're a small organization, or you're going to use maybe professional services or consultants, you don't need to. You are able to just mark complete and move on. But if you do have staff, this section is also going to transition into the full budget summary over here. So I'm just going to show you how to enter a staff. So if I am the director and there's one position here, so here's where, remember A1A Transportation was my subcontractor. So here you're gonna enter all staff. So if you had a bus driver that was related to A1A, you would also enter them as a staff, and then you would choose the subcontractor budget. But I'm going to enter the director for the main agency. And then here you're choosing, is this person a professional service? Is it a full-time, part-time, volunteer? So this is a director who's a full-time employee. The director provides direct services. This person has a master's degree. This is open text, so you are going to type out the qualifications that you have in your agency. And this person is going to oversee the innovation project. So here, this section is, you know, what are the responsibilities of this position in relation to the application that you're submitting for the innovation fund. So we don't want to know that they, you know, do oversee the K-5 program or the 6-12 program or anything else, or whatever their additional duties are. We want to know in relation to this project. Do you supervise staff? And then what's the annual salary? So the annual salary, okay, I'm going to use 100,000 so that I can figure out the math easy. So the annual salary is 100,000. The fringe benefits is, let's say, 20%. So, well, that's a lot. Let's say 10%. And so what is the program allocation? So this person makes $100,000, but they are going to be moving, if funded for this project, they're going to spend 25% of their time on this, overseeing the innovation fund. So 25% of the time would be 27,500, I think, right? Which is, okay, 28% of the salary allocation. It's breaking it down for you. It's calculating. And then this part is important in every section. So this is the total funding request. So even though this person is spending 28% of the time dedicated to overseeing the project, we as an agency are only going to ask the Children's Trust for $20,000 of the budget to fund it. So there's two different pieces of the budget. There's the program allocation and there's the funding request that you're asking the Children's Trust. So when you put in the amount of money that you're asking for from the Children's Trust, it will automatically calculate the rest. And then the assumption is that your agency is going to be matching $8,250 because you are, in a sense, you know, paying for the difference, right, between the 20% and the 28% that you're asking for. So, oh boy, we didn't correctly count. Oh, annual salary position. Did it erase? Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure why it's telling me value cannot be greater than 0. Okay, I don't know. Let me just see what. Okay, so anyways, you're gonna enter everything here and then you're gonna save this. And then it is going to list all of the positions you have sort of like in a row. And then you can save that. And then you're gonna move on to the subcontractor budget. So if you don't have any subcontractors, you don't have partners or you have in-kind partners, you wouldn't need to complete the subcontractor budget. No, this is a busy time of day for Trust Central. Okay, so if you don't have any subcontractors, you can just go ahead and mark the section complete. If you want to enter a subcontractor budget, you would click new entry and you would go through and basically enter the information that it's asking you for. Here, it could be you have some type of partner that's going to be contributing to your agency. And you might be paying them you might be paying a staff, you might be paying for a specific service. I highly recommend that you review the section in our budget guidelines that discusses the difference between subcontractors and professional services before you make your decision. If you're going to include a subcontractor. Here in the dropdown will be all of the subcontractors that you included in your partner table will show up here. And then it's gonna ask you which line item from our budget, I don't know why it's not populating, which line item you will be using. So all of the line items from our budget will be included here in the drop down. So maybe it's transportation. You can just add transportation and then the same thing applies. You have, $10,000 allocated to the program. You're gonna ask the Children's Trust for $5,000. The rest of the things will be automatically calculated. And here you're gonna justify that this is for transportation services. Okay, I'm just gonna cancel it since we're not gonna add it. And then the next section we're gonna go to, okay, let me just, okay. The next section we're gonna do is the actual budget. So in this is where you're going to really need to take a careful look at the budget guidelines that we included here. The link is here for your, so you can access it easily. You notice that the salaries that I entered from the staffing table carried over here. And then the subcontractor, we didn't add any money. So if you will need to enter a new entry, a new line, if you will, for every line that you're gonna be requesting funding from. So it could be that you're requesting money for space or program supplies, whatever the line items you're requesting, you're going to fill out one by one. For some reason, this is not loading. I don't know, Darren, we're gonna have to check this. But here in the line item, it's select from the drop down list. So if you're familiar with our budgets, here we go. These are all the different categories. So if you're asking for, staffing is here. If you're like asking for space. So, the program allocation is $5,000 in space. You're gonna ask $4,000 from the Children's Trust. So you will be matching again $1,000 and then, office space to implement the program. And here it will show you in our budget guidelines that it's like, I don't know, 12 months times $500 a month is $6,000. So you're going to need to sort of provide calculation, justification here for your expenses. And again, you're going to add a new entry for every expense that you want to request funds for. So you will just go through that process as many times as you need to. It will total your budget. Now you can see at this point, you're asking for $32,500. So this section is important to really, to be thoughtful about it, because I will just say in our experience that a lot of applicants ask for $100,000 and we have yet to award $100,000 to any one project. So at this point, we are really using your budget to determine, the amount of funding that is actually needed. So it's important to be as accurate as you're able to. At this point, we understand that, you know, you haven't really implemented the project or gotten that far into it. It's an idea at this phase, but it's important to be accurate so that we can really, you know, be strategic about our investments, and we really want to fund as many ideas as we can. So this section is very helpful for us to be able to do so. The other thing is, so it's telling me that you have to validate. So when you come to this section, you need to enter into all of the other sections and just save them again. What section did I enter? Let me just delete this. You need to enter into each section and just resave it so that it will be validated. You know that it's validated when it turns to green. Okay, so we're gonna save this one again. Oh God, oh geez. Oh, okay. Trust Central. Oh boy. Okay. Let me go back to my application. Okay. So I'm gonna go to, so the next section is going to be, sorry, I need to go back to modify. And I'm gonna go to organizational capacity. Okay, it's spinning. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're gonna go to organizational capacity. And in this section, we really want to understand, you know, does your organization have the capacity to implement your innovative idea? Does your innovative idea fit within the mission and the vision of your agency? Or is it something, you know, that's sort of like taking you in a different direction? And you're just going to enter there. And then I know that we are over our time. I think we were supposed to end about 10 minutes ago. So let me just go to the last section, which is the application and review process. In this section, Vivian spoke about the reviewer guidelines and the other information. All of that information is here. So it's right here, handy for your review. Of course, it's also in the full document. This is where you're going to enter the CEO, the official person in your agency that's able to engage in contracts with the Children's Trust. You're going to answer some questions about taxes. You're going to certify, and then you're going to mark the application complete. So once you do all that, all of these sections are going to have green check marks. And once the check marks are all green, you're going to see the button which will tell you that you will submit your application. Once you submit your application, you're going to see the bar at the top, which is going to, just like in the pre-application, it's going to show you that your application has been submitted. And additionally, you're going to receive an email or you're going to receive a message in the system once you submit that is showing you that the message will show your application has been submitted. So if you don't see the bar at the top showing you that your application has submitted, then you have not submitted yet. So I think I'm gonna stop sharing, Vivian.
Yeah, I want to answer, I answered a lot of questions that had been submitted in the Q&A because I know that we're over on time. I just left a couple that maybe would be helpful for everyone to hear. How can one find a company or program who wants to partner? That really is up to the applicant to look for partners. We will make the recording of this available in our website in addition to the sign-in sheet of everyone who participated. You know, you're welcome to reach out to folks according to that. Would you need a startup funds for this program? The Children's Trust functions on a reimbursement basis. So it's not that we're requiring or asking you to have startup funds, but you'll always have to, spend funds first before you get reimbursed. So that's just something for you to keep in mind. Can more than one team member work on a proposal online at the same time, Rachel?
Yes. Yeah, I went over that where you add the either in the pre-application section where you're adding the authorized users is where you can add all the people. Again, with the pencil, but it also is, you need to be careful because you may be entering information, the other person may be changing it. So I suggest that you fully review your application before you submit it at the end.
And then lastly, are you able to print out draft copies as you're working on the application? I think there's like a printer friendly button or something that people can use to print.
Yes, at the top. Yeah, at the very top, it will say review, and then there is a button that says printer friendly, so you can print the final version once you submit.
Okay, and so just lastly, I want to go over, let's see, some last minute pieces because I just want to make sure I send the questions saying that I have to be submitted to the system because they were very content specific questions. So I just want to make sure that we go over that part again.
It's in the presentation mode, Vivian.
I just switched it, but okay.
Okay.
So once again, here's the timeline. We have to, pre-applications are due August 6th. The sooner you submit your pre-applications, the sooner you're going to get a response, the sooner you can submit a new idea if you'd like to. And then you're invited to apply. You want to submit your application by 5 p.m. on August 20th. So just going over those important things. How to ask questions. So from now on, and even some of you who ask questions in Zoom, that were content specific, very specific to your application, you have to submit it to the system. You can do so when you go into the grant, ask a question, state what topic or category, state your question, and submit it, and check periodically to make sure that your question has been answered. Also, the questions that have already been asked, because your question may have already been asked. If it is a technical question, make sure you submit that to the help desk. And so read through the ITN carefully. So many of the questions and everything that we went over here today is in the ITN itself. So read it carefully. Make sure you register in Trust Central, assign your users, complete all of the section, check our page periodically for the Q&A, for addendums, for resources. Make sure you submit your application by August 6th, and then the whole application, if you're not to do so, by August 20th. Thank you for your patience. We apologize for going over. This is the first time we do this completely virtual, and certainly, run into some technical challenges along the way. Again, if you have questions beyond today, please make sure you submit them through the system. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.